like that the final 53-man roster for the Cowboys has been released. And the man himself, all 5'5", 180 pounds of him, Deuce Vaughn, is officially on that 53-man roster. I said I was going to be petty about this. Make sure y'all can hear me too, by the way. Thumbs up in the chat if we're good to go on that front, on the audio front. Deuce Vaughn is officially on the roster. The initial 53-man. Tried to tell people, tried to warn people, I guess, tried to bring light to the situation, tried to highlight why it just made no sense whatsoever to write a dude off when your offensive line, the how and your running game had so many issues a year ago running the football. You're not going to blame one player in particular, much less a rookie, right? The running backs are the dependent variables in these situations. We're not going to blame that guy for all of the Cowboys' wrongdoings in the running game from a year ago. All right? You saw the juice this year, and you're going to continue to see it in the regular season. All right? He had to sort some things out of his own, and he's definitely done that. The coaching staff knows. I'm telling you, I told you guys months ago. I'm about to go on a little spree here too. I'm taking my victory lap today. I told you guys I would. I'm not calling any names out, but I'm gonna resurface the things that I said that I got criticized for, that I got heat for in my mentions, and I'll just wait. I'll just wait for those who know what they said and what they did to offer an olive branch, if you will. But no hard feelings either way, y'all. This is just simply going through and talking things through. I'm here to answer some questions, whatever you guys are surprised. Let me know what y'all are surprised about. Let me know what you're mad about. Let me know what you're excited about. For me in particular, I was a little bit surprised to see that Josh Ball was let go. I was a little bit surprised to see that Justin Rogers was let go. I was a little bit surprised that they went 4 deep at tight end and 10 deep at offensive tackle. Let's go ahead and or at offensive line. Let's go ahead and get this pulled up here, and we'll talk some of these things through. But while we do that, y'all start filtering and get some of your questions. Yeah, I'm seeing CD is back. You guys probably saw my live reel reaction, the raw reaction, I guess, from yesterday. I was headed back from Cancun with my wife, and we literally sat down to have lunch. You guys can't hear me on that side, on the YouTube side of things? Mic check over there. Richard Wilson, Robert Bratton, let me know. Audio should be good. Looks good on my end. I hope so. That would stink to have all that be. Yeah, Richard Wilson. He says that he can. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you, man. Robert, just check your volume on your side, man. Could be you, but I'm showing all things are clear over here. Anyway, wife and I sat down to eat lunch, getting ready to wrap up our amazing vacation. Little friends get together. The annual football season kickoff. We kind of parlayed it into my 30th birthday celebration alongside one of my other best friends. Two of my other best friends who all have birthdays around the similar time of the year. And we sit down, and lo and behold, there comes the news of CD. So luckily for us, we actually did have about 2.5 to 3 hours to kill before we had to head to the airport. We checked out of our room at about noon. Didn't have to leave the hotel until 3. So it was the perfect timing for me to get what needed to be done. But she took it upon herself to video me while throwing down on some chips and pico de gallo. Just, take me as I am, full take me as I am style, right? But she did me a favor because it saved me the time of having to just be stressed about the whole travel day and then trying to get my thoughts out on that particular news. So she did me a huge favor. I didn't have to produce anything from scratch. So if you didn't catch my raw reaction on that and what the CeeDee Lamb contract means for Dak Prescott, please feel free to go and do so. It's on every social media platform that you guys are following me on right now. Instagram, YouTube, as well as TikTok. TikTok side of things, you guys I appreciate that. Tanner Hills, thank you, man. Best Cowboys influencer. I appreciate you. You guys are the best Cowboys influencer fans because without y'all, I ain't here. I'll tell you that right now. Filter in over on the YouTube side of things if you guys have it, if you have that available to you at your disposal. That's where things are going to be a little bit more interactive. You'll be able to see some of the things that I'm talking about and referencing, a lot of the key points. I'm getting the roster pulled up right now. If I can multitask, it's a little bit difficult here. Let's go ahead and vibe out for just a second. Turn this music up just a tad. We'll vibe out while I get this pulled up, and then we'll get rolling. Thank y'all for being here, man. I hope you're having a great day. I feel refreshed and revitalized after a little weekend getaway up in paradise, Cancun, with some of my best friends. Life is good. Football season is here. It's game week for Texas for my Horns. Lots of work happening on that end as well, covering that team, having a blast doing that as well. And then I'm, stay tuned on the fantasy football front. I know so many people, I don't want to pigeonhole myself out of that market because I am passionate about it. I feel very confident in a lot of the points and a lot of the things that I do. And so maybe this may end up being your one-stop shop for Cowboys, Longhorns, and fantasy football content. We'll see, though. I'm not exactly sure about that. I don't want to spread myself too thin right now, while still my first and foremost, my priority right now, my full-time job is my two beautiful baby girls, who one of them is actually in the other room sleeping right now. So if and when she wakes up, which could be any time, she was definitely tired today, so I feel good about this 2-hour nap window we got here. I'm trying to take advantage of, but if you see me just rush off, you'll understand why. You know why. Here we go. Let's go to my page. Turn this volume down just a tad. And y'all keep me. So look, the soundboard is still a work in progress. Still trying to figure out all the bells and whistles. If the music is ever too loud, please just cut me some slack. All you got to do is type it in the chat very calmly, very respectfully. Say, "Hey, Lando, music's too loud. Turn it down." I'll happily take care of that for y'all, and I do appreciate that. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Let's go to Jon Machota. So first and foremost, Pat No-C Walker with the science as well, man. That's one of my guys, one of my trusted representatives of not only DallasCowboys.com, but all of Dallas Cowboys media. He has the full list of the 2024 Cowboys roster, cuts plus IR. So an interesting name that we obviously need to talk about here. Donon Bland is the cornerback designated to return. So he's on IR. Obviously, with the stress fracture in his foot, expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. That was from about a week ago. I think the news actually broke on Friday or Saturday. I can't remember which. So a few days ago, right? That at the time, it was approximately 2 weeks out from the start of the regular season. So 6 to 8 weeks, that has you missing anywhere from 4 to 6 games. Okay, so designated to return. The new rule as of 2023, I believe, was the first year in its effect. Make sure I'm sharing my screen with y'all. Hold up. Let me double back. There we go. Right here. YouTube, y'all can see. StreamYard. See, there we go. Turn the music down. Malu on Yahoo. He's yelling at me, but I appreciate the notice, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Please, I come in peace. I swear. So one of the two injured, or the IR designated to return spots was utilized on Donon Bland. That's important to keep in mind. Initially, I talked about the Cowboys utilizing that loophole to, maybe perhaps for somebody along the lines of like Ryan Flournoy, but that dude made sure that his spot was more than secure with his play. Okay. That's another thing too. Good point, Taco Frog on 77 over on YouTube side. The Peyton Hendershot thing. I mean, the Cowboys were keeping 4 tight ends, Brevyn Spann-Ford being the fourth of which, right? That's a dude they gave $250,000 of a signing bonus to. So it was obviously going to be tough for them to willingly part ways with his services so soon. Okay, so they kind of did that. You could call that some politics if you want. I did a show before the draft began with my guy Ben Larimore. And he put me on to the Brevyn Spann-Ford. He was the first person to introduce me to him, and so the Cowboys obviously signed him as an undrafted free agent. He was priority free agent. $250,000 is a noticeable signing bonus for a UDFA. If anybody who's unfamiliar, that's a handsome chunk of change. All right, the Cowboys are famous for doing so, for going above and beyond. It's the second NFL draft, and then today. I feel like I should always go ahead and make it known for anyone else who is unaware, right? Today is free agency /draft number 3 all these other 50, every team, like obviously the Cowboys aren't the only team cutting their roster down to 53. So there's going to be a lot of players that teams cut who other teams feel could be of service to them. Okay. And so that's going to be interesting. I know a lot of people are talking about Israel Abanikanda, the second-year man, I believe, out from the Jets. So it's a dude. He tested very well at the combine. He's got a lot of juice left. Clearly, ton of tread on the tires. Lots of explosiveness. Maybe they kick the tires on him. And real quick too, you clicked on the thumbnail on the YouTube side of things, so thank you for doing that. But to me, the Dalvin Cook thing, and I've said this to on a few different levels now already. Yeah, Richard, no Royce Freeman is kind of. It is what it is. I'm also on record real quick too. I've said that to me, Royce Freeman brings more to the table than Zeke and Dalvin Cook each. Now, Zeke, if he's utilized in the role that we all initially thought and agreed that he was brought back here for, then that's fine. But, I think the closer you get towards Zeke touching the ball 200 plus times, the more the more I feel like we're just on that hamster wheel, kind of, doing the same thing over and over again, kind of ending up in the same exact situation. That's why I teased the idea of Zeke potentially being one of those, utilizing an IR designated to return him, to keep Royce around. Let Royce handle the brunt of the workload. Be your Ezekiel Elliott, short down in distance, and 1B to Rico's 1A guy, right? Let him handle all the wear and tear and spend all the tread in the early part of the season, right? And then bring Zeke back for the home stretch when it matters the most, right? You want that veteran leadership. You want that extension of the offensive line, the trusty dude in pass protection next to Dak Prescott, protect your MVP candidate quarterback. I get all that. Handle the short area downs and distances. Like there's a very clear and very there's a role for Zeke, right? But I just hope that he's utilized in that specific role and nothing more than that. So that's all. And it's no shame. It's no shot on him, man. It's just when you're as talented of a player as he was, you touch the football as many times as necessary and as many times as he did, right? And he'll be forever a legend for it. But, there's that position, man, it just, you fall fast. You fall very quickly. So make sure y'all can see this too here. We're looking at Jon Machota was the first that I saw to break the initial Cowboys 53-man roster. Let's just go through it for anybody who's listening. Okay, you've got the quarterback position, 3 quarterbacks. Obviously, we told y'all they weren't cutting Trey Lance either. He's making $5 million this year. Okay, sometimes politics do get in the way. Same thing with Brevyn Spann-Ford, the 4th tight end. Okay, they went heavy at tight end, heavy at offensive line, and they kept 3 quarterbacks. So that's just the way that it is. So we got obviously Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush, Trey Lance. At running back, we've got Zeke Elliott, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, and Hunter Lipke. And once again, my mentions are open for those of you who probably won't admit it, but definitely do owe me an apology. At wide receiver, we've got CeeDee Lamb, Brandin Cooks, Jalen Tolbert. No surprise there. Jalen Brooks, if you listen to me, if you listen to various others who were on scene and on site at the Cowboys training camp facility in Oxnard, Jalen Tolbert was running with the ones all camp on special teams. That's a guy that wasn't getting cut, right? And he was bringing the same amount to the table, if not more, than the guys who sort of stole the headlines early, the sleeper receivers like Jalen Cropper, Tyron Billy Johnson, etc. Right? So Jalen Brooks was making this team. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody as well. Okay, and then you've got KaVontae Turpin, obviously another lock, given the prowess and the role that he's got carved out for himself on this 53-man roster as your return ace, right? And I can't wait to see him hopefully get in the end zone this year on one of those, take one to the crib. We'll see. And then Ryan Flournoy, the dude that I said, if in a vacuum, okay, for those who still haven't had the time or just don't really care, you're not locked into the preseason, that's okay. That's why I'm here. Allow me to help, okay? And I appreciate y'all being here. Once again, Ryan Flournoy, rookie 6th-round draft pick, okay? In a vacuum, because when I was saying what I'm reiterating to y'all, it was still kind of unclear at the time because he had a hamstring injury pop up, so he really wasn't practicing. You saw some flashes before the injury, right? And then the body, the just let's just say the tools. Okay, this is a guy that looks every bit the part. Okay, in a vacuum, Jalen Cropper, Tyron Billy Johnson, Ryan Flournoy. Once again, Ryan Flournoy was the guy that I was advocating for using that contractual loophole, the added IR spot designated to return prior to the 53-man cut. One of those was already used on Donon Bland, so technically they still could have used one more if they wanted to. All right, but I was advocating for it. If it came down to it, and you couldn't cut Jalen Cropper, or you couldn't cut Tyron Billy Johnson, they were just that good. All right, and Ryan Flournoy, you know what he's capable of, but he's kind of banged up, and he hadn't really proven himself and earned that sixth receiver roster spot yet. Loophole him, okay? But this is a dude, just for the fan base, because the fan base will sort of it'll resonate better if I say this, and I do want to make it clear that I'm being very careful before I'm saying it. There's you might watch Ryan Flournoy, you might turn on his highlights, and let's just say your brain might just automatically take you to a recently former number 88 that used to play for the Dallas Cowboys as well. What do I think about Brandin Cooks? I think he's a very talented veteran receiver that's only going to continue to improve upon his chemistry with Dak Prescott. A more than serviceable, an above average wide receiver too. Are we losing hope on Mazi? I'm not losing hope, but the organization is giving you tells, very clear tells, concerns that I had going in, and they're adding multiple men to the position. And if you listen to certain people who are more plugged in than me, they would tell you that they're not done adding to that position, the defensive tackle position, or potentially otherwise. Carl Lawson, once again, a surprise cut for a few different people. You'd like to think there's maybe a hole at the edge position that they could add somebody from another roster who just got cut today as well. They're going to be shopping. This roster isn't set. This is the initial 53. That doesn't mean it's a done deal. So keep in mind there. All right, but not to belabor the point. Ryan Flournoy is a dude that people should be paying very close attention to if you haven't been already. All right, get to know the name. Obviously, at the guard, we got. Let's see. Only two technically listed as a guard here, but for me, oh wait, okay, yeah, TJ Bass. I see him down there. So TJ Bass to me is a guard. He's not a tackle in this league personally. I don't think, and I'm no expert, but I do my homework. Okay. So you got Zack Martin, Tyler Smith, and TJ Bass, a first round or a first ballot Hall of Famer, a first team All-Pro, and then a guy that a lot of people like as a depth piece inside. Cooper Beebe, same thing. Him and Brock Hoffman are your two centers. And then you got 5 tackles. I actually kind of thought that Chuma Edoga would be a potential IR designated to return candidate, but he's on the initial 53, so we'll see what happens there. I wonder if I guess they could technically, I'm not sure how that designation is going to work, but they keep Asim Richards, Matt Waletzko, Chuma Edoga, and Terence Steele. Josh Ball, one of the surprising offensive line cuts. A lot of people speculated that Matt Waletzko would be released in place of Josh Ball, but the Cowboys see it a little bit differently. I guess they like the upside and the positional value of the tackle spot for Matt Waletzko. 6'9", 6'10", third-year guy now out of, was it North Dakota? Pretty sure. And interesting, too, here, I also think it's definitely worth noting. Jon Machota has Micah Parsons as the first player listed, rightfully so, but he's got a linebacker designation alongside his name to go along with, obviously, the defensive end designation. So that's another thing that my mentions are wide open for. If you guys would like to revisit some of the things that were said to me, I'll be waiting. I'll be patiently waiting. We'll just call it that. Damn! Tyrus Wheat. Anybody wondering about Carl Lawson? Tyrus Wheat is the answer to your question. They saw more. They like the youth that Tyrus Wheat brings, and they like what he's doing right now in the present. Okay, who knows? That could be a position that they revisit. Something happens. Tyrus Wheat doesn't work out. He can't handle the pressure. He's not producing the same way that they thought that he would or that he did in the preseason. Carl Lawson could still be out there. 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks from now. Okay. It is what it is. This is a business first and foremost. Okay. So you got Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Marshawn Kneeland, and then Osa, Mazi, newly acquired Jordan Phillips, and newly acquired Linval Joseph on the interior. I guess Chauncey Golston technically is the other member of that position as well. But they list him as DL. So I think, a lot of people, myself included, like what Chauncey Golston brings as an end, especially against heavier personnel packages, more run-heavy teams. To me, if you've got Chauncey Golston lined up on your interior, I think you're a little bit overmatched. It's just not his natural, but he's not going to be your body type that you just plug in the middle and then ask to command double teams. That's just not what he was built with. But if he's on the edge doing things in C gap more so than A and B, I think he's more serviceable for you. But we'll see how Mike Zimmer feels like he's deployed. But it's interesting to note that the DL as opposed to the DT. He's going to kind of play all across the formation. Eric Kendricks, DeMarvion Overshown, Marist Liufau, Damone Clark, and Buddy Johnson. That's another one, the guy that kind of played his way into a role. It's not a name that most people weren't really familiar with, myself included, prior to this preseason. But good for him. Excited to see him continue to blossom. I did hear Brad Sham mention that, Brian Broaddus mentioned that Brad Sham mentioned multiple times that DeMarvion Overshown's hip pointer is something that we should probably be paying a little bit more attention to, more so than we currently are. So keep that in mind as well. I don't want to overblow that. I don't want to scare anybody, obviously, but definitely worth noting. Brad Sham, not a guy that's just going to be saying things just to say them, right? At the cornerback spot, obviously you got Trey Diggs, J. Lou, Caelen Carson, Andrew Booth, newly acquired, and Izzy Mukuamu is your sixth corner. Or is that fifth corner? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so he's your fifth corner. And at the safety spot, 4 safeties: Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Marquise Bell, Wanye Thomas. That's one of the best. That's got a case for the best room on the roster, in my opinion. And I would argue, without looking and doing my homework on it, the necessary due diligence, I would argue that it's one of, if not, I would just say it's one of the best safety rooms across the National Football League. Probably not number one. Once again, there's safety rooms that feature, the likes of guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick and, there's lots of really talented rooms out there. But this one, just the depth of it. Like if Wanye Thomas, to me, is a dude that's always seems like he's in the right place at the right time. When big plays are happening, he's usually right there involved, if not the number one culprit for why those things are happening. If that's your fourth best safety, you're doing something right. And then obviously to round out the roster, the special teams positions, you got your kicker, Brandon Aubrey, stud in his own right. Okay. Should not be slept on whatsoever. Your punter, Brian Anger, and your long snapper, Trent Steele. So there you have it, folks. But this is the one right here I really wanted to highlight and talk about. I think I actually skipped over the tight end position. I didn't name them all, so I'll go ahead and give them the credit that they are due as well. Jake Ferguson, no surprise. Luke Schoonmaker, no surprise, given the second-round draft stock. John Stevens, once again, no surprise. A guy that Stephen Jones himself said that would have made the roster a year ago had he not torn his ACL. And then Brevyn Spann-Ford, the $253,000 man, undrafted free agent rookie out of Minnesota, makes the roster. The Cowboys liked him as a run blocker. That's a dude that myself and Ben Larimore put me on the Brevyn Spann-Ford sweepstakes prior to the draft. We drafted him in the 6th round of my initial pre-draft, or my first and only pre-draft mock. And we pulled up the film, and I instantly saw or liked what I saw because of his physicality on the line of scrimmage. Now, we'll see if we can get that to translate. It may take some time. Obviously, undrafted free agent, so plenty of other teams, not just the Cowboys, didn't feel that his skill set was enough to be worthy of a draft pick, okay? But at 265 pounds at the tight end position, his stature and his physicality, in theory, are different than any other guy that you have currently on the roster, okay? And then once again, Peyton Hendershot just recently traded within the last hour or two, I think, to the Kansas City Chiefs for a future late-round draft pick. Not sure what that's going to net, but good on the Cowboys. So a guy that they would have cut anyway. The Chiefs wanted to bypass, or they saw, they evaluated the room. They saw pass catching tight end, a guy that's really not going to bring much for you in the run blocking department. But they evaluated the roster. They saw a guy that they thought that the Cowboys would potentially be willing to part ways with. They offered us a late round pick. And so good for both parties. They feel that he's bolsters their roster. He gets to bypass, the waiver claiming negotiation process, right? For other teams or whatever. And then the Cowboys also, they don't have to just let him walk for free or for nothing. So they get future draft capital in exchange for his services. So that's pretty cool for another undrafted free agent himself, who kind of burst onto the scene in the preseason 2 years ago. But anyway, I wish him the best, and I hope that it works out for him. So let's get to some more questions, though. I've yapped for far too long now. Go ahead and get a little bit of background music for y'all, and for those who have already made me well aware, a conditional 7th round pick for Hendo. Okay, cool. David, why are you laughing at the Des Bryant comp? I said a recent former 88. I didn't say that he was. I said that you watch some highlights of him. Cowboys fans, I knew it would resonate better for everybody that's in here. I'm assuming most people are Cowboys fans. If you're not, welcome in to the show, and please hit that subscribe button for me. We're growing big time over here. A lot of fun things going on behind the scenes as well that I can't wait to bring to life and show y'all. But anyway, neither here nor there. Randy Gregory retired. Yep, had a couple of those questions on Twitter. I said, not an option. There are just some things that he's dealing with, and I wish him all the best moving forward in his own personal life as well. If healthy, do you think Overshown can take a huge leap? Well, so the thing is, a huge leap relative to himself, I'm really not sure how to answer that question, given we haven't really seen him perform in this league yet. But a huge leap as a depth piece relative to what the roster, or to what your roster provided you at that position from last year, alongside a healthy array of Kendricks, Clark, Liufau. Yes, I do. I definitely do. What else we got? You know what? I think this actually might be time for, it is game week, so here's these bells, man. This just makes me happy. I love the wishful thinking there, JF Dallas. Aaron Donald out of retirement joins the Cowboys in the postseason. Can you imagine? That's funny. And then Christian Beamer says, "Who do you think is the true wide receiver 3 for Dallas?" It's not who I think. It's who I know, and it's Jalen Tolbert, without question. Okay, yeah. So one more time, let's address this because it's on the thumbnail. Christian Beamer says, and thank you for this, Christian. I appreciate that because I can't do it. It's really hard for me to do everything right now. I got NFL Network on to my left, so I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing any major breaking cuts from around the NFL league, the National Football League. Y'all in the chat, let me know. Keep me posted on that front too, and I'm trying to keep tabs over here as well. This is a great question from user 6899250311036. Come on now, get you a username for me, man. He says, how long will it take for CeeDee Lamb to get in football shape to be safe from soft tissue injury? That's a completely fair question. I acknowledged this on my video yesterday. It's fair, but for me, it's not a concern. And I just say that because I know the type of work ethic that CeeDee has, and I just trust it. But to answer your question, how long will it take? It's probably a 2-week ramp up, which is why his camp thought that this past weekend was the longest necessary time to wait before he thought he could be right for when the regular season ultimately began. I saw Frank Gore Jr. got cut. I don't know a ton about his skill set, though. I'll be completely honest. So we'll see about that. But what I will say is that Rico, if he's spearheading the backfield, followed by Zeke in a very minimal short down and distance and goal line role, as well as certain, longer downs and distances in pass pro, and just time and a place, right? But in a sparing role, and then Deuce supplanting both of those two. I love what they have, health permitting. I shouldn't say I love it relative to the rest of the National Football League, but I should clarify and say that it's plenty good enough if the how in the running game is solved, which I expect it to be. Cut Rico for Cooks. See, that's not real life. It's not going to happen. And to me, I would strongly advise against that, even if it were possible. Dalvin Cook, just because it's a name that you know, doesn't mean that he's better than what you have. And in this case, I absolutely believe that that's the case. I've already said 30 minutes ago, I tweeted it. I'll take Royce over Zeke and Dalvin right now, probably. I think he brings more to the table. Now, Zeke's invaluable in the locker room as a leader, as a mentor to guys like Deuce and Rico, as a teammate to your MVP caliber quarterback, Dak Prescott, let's be real, let's call spades here. As a marketing tool for the Joneses, he's invaluable. So I knew saying that don't take that as me saying Zeke ain't going to be here. He's absolutely going to be. He was never going anywhere. But that's why I prefaced that a few days ago when I just was spitballing the idea of Zeke potentially being an IR designated to return guy, or even possibly a guy that would retire and then come out of the retirement down the home stretch. We'll see. Rico can't pass pro. I think that's can't is strong and probably subjective. No running back on this roster is perfect. But to me, let's just say this, whatever you lack, I don't know what his grades are. I can definitely look. I can pull that up. If anybody else has a differing opinion and has the data to back my thoughts, please bring them to the table in the chat box. But let's just hypothetically say whatever Rico may lack in pass pro, Dalvin Cook more than lacks in juice and ability as a ball carrier. Rico likes to fumble. He also is frequently injured. Okay, I'm not once again, there isn't a perfect running back on this roster. But the best one all training camp was Rico. And the one that has a ton of juice that absolutely belongs in this league and on this roster is Deuce. And then we know why Zeke was brought back. I don't need to mention that for the fourth time today. But the premise for me is, I'll go ahead and pull this up too. I haven't tweeted too much since then. I think I can just find it on the timeline. Here's another thing worth mentioning. The most underrated part about CeeDee Lamb holding out was added reps and development of wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4 and beyond. For example, Jalen Tolbert gets all the first team reps in 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends on the field, 1 receiver, or 1 running back, 2 tight ends. Jalen Brooks and company get all the first team reps in 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 receivers. And then I addressed the comment that was brought up a second ago too. Yes, CeeDee being in football shape is a factor, but for me, it's just simply not a concern. But the chemistry and the added reps, so think about it. CeeDee missing all of training camp, right? So Brandin Cooks just defaults to wide receiver 1. Jalen Tolbert defaults to wide receiver 2. Okay. So when there's 2 tight ends on the field, let's just say in this case, Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker with Zeke or Rico in the backfield. Let's say Rico. Okay. You got Rico in the backfield. You got Jake Ferguson. You got Luke Schoonmaker at tight end. You got Brandin Cooks and Jalen Tolbert as your 2 wide receivers in this scenario. Okay. Jalen Tolbert gets all the reps with the first team that Brandin Cooks would have otherwise had as wide receiver 2 had CeeDee been in camp. Okay. Would I have preferred CeeDee been there all camp long? Absolutely. But I'm just saying, you cultivate the depth and the chemistry with the quarterback from the rest of the guys in that wide receiver room a little bit more than you otherwise would have. Okay, and there's something to be said about that. And then the same scenario, you guys get the point by now. But the same scenario in 11 personnel. Now all of a sudden, Jalen Brooks is on the field with the first team for every single time the team is repping in 11 personnel. 3 wide receivers on the field. It's it's Cooks, it's Tolbert, and now Jalen Brooks gets all that extra work with the first team. So now this year in the event, and God forbid something happens to one of your top 3 guys, you feel a little bit better than you otherwise would have with Jalen Brooks marching onto the field as wide receiver 3, and so on. I hope I made that clear. Okay, here we go. So my Deuce take. All right, and please hear me on this. Dan Rogers, and shout out to him. He does great work. I came in peace, and he knows that. This is just conductive discourse between two men in the same space. Okay, tons of respect. I wouldn't be replying to him with the depth and the detail that I did if I didn't respect him. So Dan, if you're seeing this, man, salute to you. Here's why I'm uncomfortable rolling with Deuce Vaughn, says Dan. Okay. Jitters at the line of scrimmage. By the time he hits the hole, defenders are on him. And this is yesterday, by the way, August 25th at 2:37 p.m. By the time he hits the hole, defenders are on him. That was true a year ago. He's right about that. As a rookie, that was the case for Deuce. He tried to be too jukey and too jittery the way that he was when you could get to the corner much easier and at the college level than you can in the NFL. Just because of, the run responsibility. Let's just say the sound defense and run fits as well as the speed. Okay. That's what he's referring to. And he's not wrong. But you'll see why I disagree here in just a second. Everyone is faster and he can't escape around the edge. Fair point. That was true a year ago. If he gets loose in space, someone's catching him. Also true. Like, you're not going to see Deuce break off an 80-yard touchdown run the way that you might with somebody like Rico, or insert explosive running back that's average size here. Okay. And then he goes on to mention as soon as he's contacted, he goes down. Okay. So we got that part. Now here's my response. And once again, utmost respect. I acknowledge you make a great case, because in last year it was true. And real quick, guys, if you're watching this on TikTok, please hit that follow button. If you want to see the more interactive version of the stream that you're currently seeing right now at The Lando Show on YouTube, please come over there and catch me on that side. It's much better, and I pay closer attention to the questions in the comments on the YouTube side of things. And then also, if you're new to this on YouTube, welcome in. Yeah! Oh, that wasn't loud enough. Here we go. Yeah! And please hit that subscribe button too, because we're only going to continue to ramp up the work from here. I'm a full-time dad, first and foremost, of 2 daughters. One's 2.5, one's 7 months old. Currently sleeping in the other room as we speak. But sports media is my second love, and my full-time job, and what ultimately will feed my family in the very near future. It kind of does already, but not as much as I would like for it to. But we're on the way. So you make a great case, Dan, but here's why I disagree on Deuce Vaughn. The how and the run game, as well as the who up front from last year, isn't an apples-to-apples comparison to 2024, and the staff knows that. More downhill things, forcing defenders and would-be tacklers to stack and shed, as opposed to trying to do everything via outside zone or runs from the gun. What do I mean by that? You'll see a couple highlights here, actually. Let's just kind of bring this to life, and you can kind of see what we're talking about. This is week 1. Or no, I don't know. I'm not sure when. Yeah, this was week 1 of last season. Okay. We know that the Cowboys lacked power and strength on the interior of their offensive line, moving people, and they struggled to control A and B gap. Okay. So you'll see a lot of the runs here. Things are just getting bounced and pushed to the outside. Part of that is Deuce Vaughn and his inexperience at the NFL level, right? And just kind of trying to do what he did without adapting his game at the college level. But everything is sort of to the edge, right? It's all zone stretch. It's all like outside zone. It's like getting things to the boundary, right? And then the things that go in between the tackles, like just all year long, it didn't matter who was carrying the ball. You saw the Cowboys struggle to do that, to move downhill on people, okay? And so here's the thing, though. Like, when you're trying to do everything in an outside zone fashion or even zone stretch or whatever, you're giving, and you can't just put hands on people and move them the way that Cooper Beebe, Tyler Smith, and Zack Martin are going to this year. You are essentially inviting freedom and flow of the play to give the defenders the momentum to allow them a much better chance of corralling and rallying to Deuce Vaughn. Thus, or thereby, it's neutralizing his superpower, his ultimate, his biggest strength, right? Which is short area quickness, lateral agility, stop, start, change of direction. Okay, that gets neutralized and nullified if you can't force would-be tacklers and defenders to stack and shed after you're getting downhill and moving north and south on people, right? When they're having a fight in a phone booth with a first-team All-Pro, a certified stud people mover like Cooper Beebe, and a first-team, first ballot Hall of Famer Zack Martin, like this year, Zack Martin, who didn't hold out of this year's camp, by the way, he said that was a massive handicap for him last year. Also important. Keep that in mind. Okay? When you can move people in A and B gap and get downhill and kind of force guys to be fighting to stack and shed and also kind of moving backwards the way that they're going to be a lot more often this year than they were a year ago. Deuce Vaughn, not only is he hard to see, but you're also flat-footed or even potentially on your heels. So he's much more difficult to catch because you're standing flat-footed while he has a head of steam. Does that make sense? Give me something in the chat. Like, let me know y'all feel me on that because I kind of feel like I was just spitting right there. Come on! I ain't gonna preach too long. Can't be getting copyrighted. Got to keep that under 8 seconds. But anyway, O-line was terrible last year, said Edson Franco. In pass pro, they were okay, more than serviceable, including Tyron Smith. Terence Steele improved throughout the year down the stretch. And Tyler Biadasz was pretty solid as a pass protector. But moving people, getting downhill, being physical, north and south, yeah, terrible. Agreed. And it showed. Right? Every team that you played that was well-coached, playoff caliber teams who were more physical than you had no chance. And they could have won the Miami game. But you struggled in that department there in that game too. And then also, obviously, the Buffalo blueprint speaks for itself. And then same with the Packers game. That should not be, thou shalt not forget. Richard Wilson says, I feel you. I think the fact that all 5 starters got to play together in camp and Steele is that's another one. Big time. And bingo. Amen. Let me go ahead and put that one on here too. I keep forgetting to do that as well. Because that deserves to be seen, Richard. That, what you just said, alongside, so like it kind of goes hand in hand with the Zack Martin take that I just had, right? But Zack Martin not sitting out, holding out for some more money last year, or this year the same way that he did last year, it's gonna benefit the team, right? And you can even just say, like, put team chemistry aside or O-line continuity aside, like Zack Martin just for himself said, I wasn't me last year. And part of the reason for that was because of the holdout, right? And then he was kind of nicked up. Some other things that kind of got swept under the rug that not everybody knows. Zack Martin was playing through ankle injuries and I think hamstring as well for most of last season. There you go. Another valid point, right? It's that's another reason why I was so confident that Deuce wasn't going to get cut. It's because undoubtedly there are other teams that I knew would know and be willing and have already proven to be able to utilize a guy like with his skill set better and more effectively. And that's not, people were saying, no, just cut him and put him on the practice squad. Well, guess what? You can't do that. Because if you do that, then you end up in a situation like you had last year with Isaiah Land, and then the year before that with John Ridgeway. Deuce Vaughn, the uniqueness of the player, not just on this team, but across the National Football League, it matters. And on that point, let me just go ahead and do this right here. Maybe not. Sometimes I swear Twitter doesn't pull up the keywords that you type to try and find old tweets. I just need to start making sure I send them. Man, what the heck? Sending them to my DM so I can pull them up just on cue. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think this might have been it right here. April 27th. Nah, I don't think this is the one. This ain't the one I'm looking for. I'll find it in a second. Still have this weird feeling about Deuce Vaughn that I can't shake. Something in me still says he's going to have a big impact on this team. It just doesn't make any sense in my head to write off a kid who led the nation in all-purpose yards after just one season in the National Football League, and I'll also add to behind an offensive line that did not know what it was doing running the football. And you also had your run game coordinator, Jeff Blasco. It's been well documented on my channel as well, who was gone for a personal leave of absence between weeks 1 and 7 last year. That also didn't help the situation. Okay, but first year in a brand new offense, I mean, people were just completely overreacting. But then I go on to say, almost like the father-son poetic storyline made the expectations from the fan base much bigger than they ever should have been in year 1 from a 6th-round draft pick. And now a bunch of impatient people who are unfamiliar with the adversity associated with any player in any sport have completely overreacted. Maybe I'm wrong, but just remember, one season of adversity off of the active roster ain't expletive for a kid who's quite literally been overlooked for his entire life. Damn.
Damn!
That one deserves that for sure, right there. I don't know. Oh, very next day. Here's another one for you. Allow me to challenge your perspective for a second. Mike McCarthy in the Cowboys post-draft presser acknowledged that they revamped their pass protection scheme and protocol for the running backs. So my guess is, in the case for Deuce Vaughn, that revamp was a foreign language and became an extra hurdle for a kid whose small stature already made pass pro a very complicated task in the first place. And that's significant because, number one, they were already attempting to overhaul a significant portion of their offense. Couldn't spend a whole bunch of time, allocating resources towards figuring out how to use him better, okay? Number two, overhauling their protection scheme while also doing the same to a significant portion of their offense means that there wasn't enough time, energy, and effort spent on having a proper plan for Deuce Vaughn. So number two kind of just expanded upon my follow-up point to number one. I should have just kept reading. But then, the punchline. Remember, it's not who in the run game, it's the how. Bingo. Stop me if you've heard that before. Here we go. Here's the tweet I wanted to talk about. August 7th, 2024. Call me crazy, but the Cowboys are cutting or squatting one of Zeke, Rico, Royce before they cut or squad Deuce Vaughn. I still firmly believe that. There is redundancy to the top three, which is Zeke, Rico, Royce. But Deuce is unique. Being unique matters. Damn! And I just realized once again I didn't have that pulled up for y'all. So let me go ahead and just pull it back up because I feel like it deserves it, and I can. Because I do my own stunts. Here we go. Call me crazy, but the Cowboys are cutting or squatting one of Zeke, Rico, Royce before they cut or squad Deuce Vaughn. I still firmly believe that. There is redundancy to the top three, but Deuce is unique, and being unique matters. It matters for reasons like Tyler Johnson 806 said. You put Deuce on the Dolphins or the Chiefs, he's going off. You dang right he is. And he just might do the same for your team this year too. That's to be determined, but we'll see. D-Lo says, hope you're doing well, Landon. Same back at you, brother. Thank you. I think once they figure out the correct and right way to use Deuce, and he can be a great player in the offense. No doubt. I mean, to me, it's more so, it's not even so much figuring out a way to use Deuce, y'all. It really isn't. It's figure out how to be more powerful, to control a gap, and just commit to going downhill on people. And then you're gonna find some pretty good things. Let's get some Deuce highlights from this preseason pulled up, because I mean, you just see that like he's playing with more physicality, y'all. He's not trying to run away from people like he did in college, or he's not. He is the joystick, but when he has to put his head down and get north and south, he's making you feel him with the leverage that he brings to the table. You feel him at the end of these runs, man. He's running tough. For those of you still in here, I see once again there's 56 on the YouTube side. 58 now. It's the most I've ever had. We've been north of 70 here for a couple different times that I've seen. But if you feel called to support, this is actually the camera fund right now, but you'll see the QR code in the top right corner of the screen. That's another way that if you want to support me financially, you can definitely do that there. I'll also have my Venmo and my Cash App listed, because we don't officially have the YouTube channel monetized yet to where people can super chat and things, and that'll eventually be the best way to get your questions in, so that I make sure that I see them and nothing gets overlooked. But the QR code right there, it's there for you if you feel called and if you're financially free enough to do so. I more than appreciate it. It goes to a good cause. Just know that. Just know that. We just upgraded the studio. Been introduced to the channel about a month ago. The upgrade was made about 3 months ago when you guys, my amazing followers, came through in a way that. After I did something that I'm not used to doing, or that I've actually never done, which was ask for a little bit of financial support so that I could take that next step and pursue this even more so than I already was previously. And so once again, I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Hey, and just like that, y'all. So we do have to get out of here. My youngest daughter just woke up from her nap, but I did want to finish off this tweet, and then I'm going to go tend to her, and I will talk to you guys soon. Okay, stay tuned. More things coming from me this week, plenty more. But David Hellman makes a funny point, and I think it's just poetic. Good way to cap off the stream here. Regardless of how good or bad it looks on the field, it's objectively very funny that the Cowboys went from paying Zeke $12.5 million in 2022 to Tony Pollard $10.1 million in 2023. And now paying their entire four-man running back room, he's including Hunter Lipke in that, as he's a fullback, a combined $4.1 million in 2024. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be running backs. With that, though, thank you guys for being in here, tuning in, and hanging out with me. We'll be doing a lot more lives, maybe even later on tonight. But the best way that you can ensure that happens is to hit that like button for me. And remember, prayer changes things, and the war is already won. I love y'all. Talk to you soon.